Okay, let's just jump right into this. Today, we're going to break down a really passionate, unfiltered take on the whole culture around massive online creators. It's a deep dive into the ethics, the morals, and yeah, some of the major pitfalls that come with getting super famous in this digital world.
And wow, the source material does not waste any time getting to the point. This one quote pretty much sets the tone for everything we're about to talk about. It's the central idea, right? That no matter how successful you get, it should never be a hall pass to stop being a decent human being. So this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? When that follower count skyrockets into the millions, does the whole game change? Does a creator suddenly have a new kind of responsibility to their community, to everyone? Let's unpack that. So first up, let's talk about what the source calls the celebrity creator problem. The whole idea is that this online creator space, which for a lot of people was an escape from traditional Hollywood, is now kind of creating its own version of that toxic celebrity culture, the exact thing people were trying to get away from. Now, the key point here is that this critique isn't a shot at all big creators, not at all. It's really focused on a specific mindset that can creep in with fame, the sense of entitlement that makes you think, hey, I've got money and notoriety, so the normal rules, they don't apply to me anymore. So how does this entitlement actually play out in the real world? Well, the source argues it creates this huge, glaring double standard. It just seems like the rules are completely different depending on how many followers you have. And to really illustrate this, the source points to a classic example from the mainstream world, Justin Bieber. You know, his early career was full of these controversies that, for any normal person, would have had some serious, long-lasting consequences. And what's so powerful about this slide is how it just lays that double standard out plain and simple. For the star, a major screw-up gets spun into a funny story on a late-night show. For you or me, we're talking a permanent record, maybe losing your job, wrecking your reputation for good. The outcomes are just in different universes. And this brings us right back to the main point. This isn't just a Hollywood thing anymore. That dynamic has fully migrated over to the internet. And to see it in action, the source brings up a really specific incident from VidCon, where this kind of entitlement was just on full display. So here's what happened. An Instagram model named Christian Burns basically told a security guard that his fame made him more important, and then said something just truly awful. But this is where the story gets interesting. The guard, Joseph Hernandez, ended up going viral, and other big creators rallied around him, which led to the model actually losing his account. It's a wild example of not just entitlement, but also of a community sometimes stepping up to police itself. Okay, so we've looked at the public stuff, but now the critique gets a lot more personal. This next part is all about the power imbalance between those massive creators and the smaller ones who are just trying to get started. The source uses a personal experience with the really popular creator CoffeeZilla as a kind of case study. And the goal here is to show how easily a much larger creator, even if they don't mean to, can make a smaller creator feel dismissed or disrespected. It's this idea of punching down. Look, the full story has a lot of layers, but it basically boils down to this. A smaller creator was promised a credited clip, but then it got posted without credit. When he tried to explain why that was a problem, he felt like he was just getting muted and shut down. What he hoped would be an alliance just left him feeling small and disrespected. And this really gets to the ultimate lesson from that whole personal story. The source concludes that in these kinds of interactions, your follower count, your view stats, none of that should matter. What really matters is integrity, and the simple principle that it is never, ever okay for someone with a huge platform to punch down. So after laying out all these problems, the source doesn't just stop there and leave us hanging. It actually shifts gears and starts to offer some constructive solutions. Basically a blueprint for how massive creators can use their influence responsibly and, ethically. Okay, so what does a better way of doing things actually look like? Well, this final section of the source material lays out some really clear, actionable steps for being a positive force in the whole creator ecosystem. And here it is, the blueprint. It's all about actively looking for and lifting up smaller creators. It's about keeping your promises and not leading people on, fostering real conversations with your community, and also being open about the struggles you went through on your way up, and using that huge platform you have to call out misinformation and harmful stereotypes. Now, the blueprint mentions this specific term, future faking, and it's worth taking a second to define. The source sees it as this really toxic behavior where people in power make these vague, empty promises just to keep you on the hook. It's all about a total lack of integrity. And at the end of the day, after all the examples, all the analysis, the entire argument really just boils down to this one simple, powerful idea. Beyond the strategies and the analytics and the whole chase for clout, the foundation for everything should just be basic human decency.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. In an ecosystem that is so obsessed with numbers, what does genuine integrity even look like? And maybe more importantly, when we, the audience, see it or when we see a lack of it, what's our part to play in all this? Definitely something to chew on.